G'day guys, it's Kev here from Kev's Collectibles, all the way from New Zealand, back with another surprise, Star Wars comic book haul. I've got some interesting spec for you today, and some books I've recently picked up which I want to show you. So let's get cracking into it. So first of all, a quick spoiler warning for those of you who haven't seen the latest episode, which is episode 4 of The Mandalorian. I suggest you pause this video or come back to it another time after you've seen that. But spoiler warning's been given, so pushing on. So the first book I have up here is Star Wars Tales number 4 from June 2000. Now, at the end of episode 4, The Mandalorian, we see Moff Gideon in a room full of these ominous-looking black-coloured droids, or what appear to be droids. Now, many of the Star Wars community members have been going through that particular scene with a fine-tooth comb, and many believe that these are in fact what are called Dark Troopers. Now, just a bit of background to the Dark Troopers. They're essentially advanced battle droids with heavy armor plating and high-tech, powerful weapons. And it appears that Moff Gideon is actually going to be using them to get Baby Yoda, obviously, which he wants back. And I think that he will be using them, and we're going to see obviously a clash between these Dark Troopers having basically a showdown with Ahsoka Tano, Bo-Katan, and obviously Mando in the last few episodes of the season, I reckon. But I just want to talk about this book in particular. So I believe this is actually the first appearance of the Dark Trooper, and the cool thing about this book is there's actually a Dark Trooper on the cover, which is really awesome. So it's actually this guy right here, as you can see, and he's firing a rocket at these guys. I think they're scavengers on a bike, a speeder. Now I'm going to show you this book, as I've been doing with my recent videos. A lot of people have been quite enjoying me showing these. It's easier to actually show panels and give evidence opposed to just talking about a book. But it's actually the last story in this, and really interesting. So it's called the story's called Sandblasted, and in the very first speech bubble you can actually see there he says Dark Trooper release. And basically this story takes place about a year after the destruction of the first Death Star. And this guy here, who is General Mock, he's basically been running a secret military research facility, basically building these Dark Troopers. And what they do in revenge, retaliation against the rebels for destroying the first Death Star, they fire all these Dark Troopers in these little pods against the rebel base called Tar, and they basically annihilate all those rebels. And one of the rebel ships that try to escape, one of the Dark Troopers gets on board and essentially starts slaughtering everyone. And the ship crash lands on the planet of Tatooine, our favorite planet, desert planet. And many years later, these scavengers, so to speak, have a run-in with these guys, and basically they find out that this Dark Trooper is on board. And it comes out and starts slaughtering everyone. And you see the first appearance of this Dark Trooper right here. Look at that. And he's basically, I mean, you look at what he's got. He's got a jetpack. he's got this rifle blaster, which I think I read a bit into it. Basically, it's like a plasma automatic rifle, and the rounds basically can penetrate most armor. Not sure if it can penetrate Beskar, but yeah, and in his shoulders, in here, the guy actually has rockets that he can fire at people as well. So like basically armored to the teeth and full of very powerful weaponry. So this is a really cool story, and again, look at that, it's a pretty cool artwork as well. And again, as I mentioned in my previous videos, Jon Favreau, he's pulling stuff from the tales, well, from multiple sources, but you guys really, if you can find any Tales comics, just grab them, man, because again, this is another issue where we're seeing stuff on the Mandalorian appearing. So these are great pickups, and you can still get these for cheap, but this is a great book. And again, first cover appearance of the Dark Trooper and first full appearance of the Dark Trooper. So this is a really good book to get your hands on. Okay. The next book I want to talk about is this one here, which is Star Wars Dark Empire #5, which came out in August 1992. Now, this was a hot book, or kind of a hot book, a few months back, with the last episode of the sequel movies, or is it The Last Jedi, where Emperor Palpatine, well, there's a clone of him basically, and that's why this book kind of heated up. But obviously, again, spoilers, in the latest episode of the Mandalorian show, we see a scene where Mando, Cara Dune, Greef Karga, and the Mithril, the blue-coloured guy, stumble across a room full of these liquid-filled tanks. And as you can see, liquid-filled tanks with these deformed, cloned creatures inside of them. And basically, we discover from this malfunctioning hologram, you've got Dr. Pershing talking about using Baby Yoda's blood to transfuse into these, basically these clones, which are full. Baby Yoda's blood is full of midichlorians, which are basically force-sensitive organisms. Essentially, if you've got a high count of midichlorians, it means you're more force sensitive, or more force powers. So if you cast your mind back to the original episode 1 of the Clone Wars, the movie, Anakin had the highest midichlorian count of any Jedi, and that's why they, Qui-Gon Jinn believed he was the chosen one. But anyway, so I'll just show you the interior of this book, and right at the end here, you can actually see the Emperor is actually, well, he's transferring his essence or his soul into these clones. And you can see these tanks full of clones, and he has transferred into one of them here, and he basically takes on Luke Skywalker and has a massive duel with him. But essentially what people, or in the community and myself, are speculating is that there is a tie-in with Snoke. So basically, I think what's happening is that they're using Baby Yoda to transfer his blood into these clones. Snoke is the first experiment that actually succeeds, and that becomes the foundation, or the recipe for the rollout of the clone for Palpatine in the sequels. So that, I think, is going to be quite a really good book to pick up, and still quite cheap as well. So keep your eye on that one. That's a really good one. So the next book I want to talk about is so I struck up a good deal with my friend Mike Morello from CBSI, which is comicbookinvest.com. Obviously, I'm a big fan of CBSI. They make really great, amazing videos, not on all types of comics, obviously, but Star Wars is obviously the one I'm mostly interested in. And what I've done is actually struck up a friendship with Mike Morello, who is well known in the Star Wars community as he has a wealth of knowledge of Star Wars, but he is a massive collector. He actually has actual movie Star Wars props and even original film from Star Wars, which is absolutely amazing. But what I've done is I've basically exchanged one of my copies of Star Wars Legacy 1 third print for this copy of Star Wars Forces of Destiny, Ahsoka and Padme #1 shot, which came out in 2018 at the San Diego Comic-Con. And this particular one is a cover B Virgin exclusive variant, and I think the cover art is done by Valentino Pinto. And the significance of this particular book is that many people argue that this is actually the first full appearance of Ahsoka Tano in Marvel comic book continuity, and many people are arguing, well, it's an IDW comic book. But the thing is IDW worked in partnership with Marvel Comics to actually produce this comic. So actually, if you think about it, it is actually in Marvel continuity. And the other cool thing about this book, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but apparently because of it's the Virgin variant, there are only 150 copies in existence. So it's probably the most rarest number-wise of any Star Wars comic book that I own. So that's a pretty cool book to finally get. And I'll leave you some links to Mike Morello's videos, but the guy is really awesome. He's such a Star Wars geek and fan like I am, and his passion is just really infectious. So I'll leave some stuff in the description for you guys to see some of his videos. Next up, I want to talk about this really cool series. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Darth Bane, right? I think maybe a couple of months ago, there are many sources reporting that Disney Plus or Disney were looking at developing either series or films or some sort of material in relation to Darth Bane. Now, this is the Jedi versus Sith series from 2001. It's a 6-book series, and as you can see, I have number 1, 2 copies there, 3 copies of number 2. There's copy number 3. That's actually the first cover appearance of Darth Bane. And number 4, number 5, and a couple copies of number 6. Now these actually even come in the Australian New Zealand price variant, which I've still yet to find. My friend Paul, from one of the comic book speculation and investing MeWe apps forums, actually has a good collection. He's over in Australia, and he sent me some photos showing me some of these books. But yeah, so the significance of this particular series is that it's the first comic book appearance of Darth Bane, which is basically number 1. And Darth Bane is probably one of the most ruthless, badass Sith Lords in the Star Wars universe. He created the rule of 2, which is where there must always be a master and an apprentice. And basically the reason why he created the rule of 2 is to make the Sith basically stronger. where the apprentice obviously learns everything they can from the master, and then eventually the apprentice tries to kill the master off so they can obviously become the new master. So it's kind of like a survival of the fittest kind of rule. And I know that Darth Bane is actually canon because he did appear in one of the Clone Wars episodes where Yoda travels to the Sith world and actually comes across Darth Bane in one of the old temples there in one of the trials he does. And the cool thing about that series is I've been very, very lucky and fortunate enough to actually pick up this book here, which is effectively number one, but this is the Dynamic Forces variant, and there are only 2,500 of these ever printed, and there's a certificate of authenticity at the back here, and as you can see, it's copy number 734 out of 2,500. It's still sealed in the original bag, and the cool thing about this cover, and some people don't like it, but essentially this guy here, this is the story basically. So there's this ongoing battle between the Sith and the Jedi going on, and these battles, both sides are losing, huge numbers of combatants basically. And what this guy here, the one with the cane, the old man, he's essentially an old Jedi. His name is Tor Snappet, and he goes to this planet basically trying to recruit new Jedi. So these three kids here, he kind of discovers that they're kind of force sensitive. This is Rain, Tomcat, and Bug, and basically he recruits them and takes them back to a planet where he can start, or the Jedi can start training them and recruiting them as new soldiers in the battle. And this guy at the back, that's Darth Bane. So I think it's a beautiful cover actually. It's not for some people it's not their cup of tea, but I really love it. So and finally, the last book I want to show you, and a big shout out to my friend Willy's Comics. You guys really need to check out his website. If you like my videos, you'll love his. He basically does exclusively Star Wars comic book hauls as well. But please check out his website. I've mentioned him before, but I'll leave a link to his channel again. But he talked about this comic. I know CBSI also talked about this, but this is again in the related to Cad Bane. So this is Star Wars Legacy number 5 from November 2006, and basically the story is Darth Krayt goes into an ancient Sith temple, and he basically summons these old Sith Lords, and the Sith Lords are Darth Adendu, Darth Nihilus. So you've got Darth Adendu, which is this guy here. You've got Darth Nihilus. This is his only second ever comic book appearance. So this is another reason why this is an amazing book. And this, would you believe, is Darth Bane. And this is his the only other appearance of Darth Bane, but his only appearance in comic books where he actually wears Obelisk armor. So basically what Obelisk armor is in the novels, Darth Bane basically goes in search of obviously more power, and he searches for a old ancient Sith holocron with information to make a more powerful Sith Lord, more dark powers. And when he accesses the holocron, he gets attacked basically by these little things called obelisks, which are, I guess, essentially organisms. and they attach themselves. There's like thousands of them, little bugs, attach themselves to his body, and then what they do is they actually feed on dark side energy, but at the same time they inject the host with adrenaline, basically for them to generate more dark side energy for them to feed on. And essentially, because Darth Bane is so badass, it's very painful for him, but he's able to use the obelisks. It's like a symbiotic relationship where they coat his body, they inject him with this adrenaline and pump him full of adrenaline so he can create more dark side energy, which makes him more powerful. But at the same time, they cover his body, and these organisms, these shells, are created by this substance basically, which makes him impervious to lightsaber attacks. So he's literally invulnerable, and it makes him even more powerful. So this is a really important book. I think it's a overlooked book. And like I said, it's got Darth Nihilus, which I'll talk about in my future comic book hauls. But yes, Star Wars Legacy #5. Get that. It's still pretty cheap. I also picked up the newsstand copy of this recently, which I'll get into later in another haul when I talk about Darth Nihilus. But yeah, this still can be bought for cheap, so grab it if you can. Anyway, that's another awesome Star Wars comic book haul. I've enjoyed doing again. Really loving the Mandalorian show. It just keeps opening up new books for me to look through and discover and just like share with you guys. So having a lot of fun. Thank you to all my new subscribers. I'm over 100 now, which is fantastic. So thank you for all your support. And I'll catch you guys in my next haul. Catch you later. Bye.